I knew my family was broken, but I didn't realize how far they'd go until the day my dad tried to steal my house. Not ask. Not negotiate. Steal it. He looked me in the eyes and said, "Your sister needs it more. Pack your things." As if my entire life, every hour I worked, every bill I paid, meant nothing compared to his precious daughter. And when I refused, I came home from work to find strangers throwing my belongings onto my front lawn like I was some unwanted tenant. My dad stood in my living room, acting like he owned the place, while my pregnant stepsister cried on cue, blaming me for destroying the family. That was the moment something shifted in me. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I just realized I wasn't the broken one here, they were. And their downfall was already on its way. I grew up with the quiet understanding that my family was never really a family. My dad married my stepmom barely 2 months after divorcing my mom, and even though I was too young to fully interpret it, I could feel the tension in the air. My mother never spoke badly about him, but she didn't have to. Children sense everything. The cold looks, the rushed conversations, the way she held her breath whenever he walked into the room. Then, when I was 5, everything cracked open. My mom died in a car accident, on her way to pick me up from school. I remember sitting on the curb, kicking my feet against the concrete, wondering why she was late. When my dad finally showed up, he didn't hug me. He didn't comfort me. He just said, "Let's go," like I was an inconvenience he had to collect. My stepmom didn't try to hide her annoyance either. Later that night, I overheard her muttering, "She's not my child. I didn't sign up for this." Those words carved themselves into my memory like scratches on glass. By the time I turned 8, they decided boarding school was the best solution. They told everyone it was for my education. I knew it was because I didn't fit into the new picture they were trying to paint, a picture where the only child that mattered was the one they planned to have together. I spent holidays coming home to a house that felt like a hotel lobby, polite, distant, and cold. My stepmom never warmed up to me, and my dad seemed to get more detached every year. But the terrible thing about growing up alone is that you learn to survive alone. I studied hard, worked harder, and built a life without expecting help from anyone. In my early 30s, I finally reached a milestone I'd dreamed of since I was a teenager. I bought my first house. A modest, charming place that represented every hour, every struggle, every lonely night spent trying to prove I was worth something. Even though my relationship with my family was fragile at best, I still invited them to my housewarming party. Not because I wanted their approval, but because I didn't want to be the kind of person they were. I wanted to be better, kinder, more human. They arrived with empty hands and heavy judgment. My dad immediately started asking how much I made, how I afforded the place, why I chose certain furniture. Not out of curiosity, out of jealousy. Every compliment from others made him stiffen. Every praise about my accomplishments felt like another reminder to him that I'd done just fine without them. 1 week later, he called and told me we needed to talk urgently. His tone already told me it wasn't going to be good. Still, I drove over, hoping maybe, just maybe, this would finally be a real attempt to reconnect. It wasn't. I walked into the living room and saw all 3 of them sitting there, my dad, my stepmom, and Ashley, my younger half-sister. Ashley, the golden girl. The miracle child. The one who could do no wrong even when she did absolutely everything wrong. Ashley's eyes were red, and she looked at me like she expected sympathy. My dad didn't waste time. "Ashley's pregnant," he said. "Her boyfriend left her. She has nowhere to go. She needs stability." I told her. I was sorry she was going through that. I meant it. Pregnant and abandoned is painful, no matter who you are. But my dad wasn't looking for empathy. He was looking for a sacrifice. "You're lucky, Mia," he said. "You're financially secure. You have your own house. Ashley needs it more than you. She's going to be a mother. You can always buy another place later." I actually thought I misheard him. My own father, who never paid for a single year of my life after boarding school, was standing there telling me to give away the one thing I built entirely on my own. I took a breath, kept my voice level, and said, "No. I'm not giving her my house." His face twisted like I'd insulted him. My stepmom rolled her eyes dramatically. Ashley sniffled louder, clearly waiting for me to crumble. But I didn't. I stayed calm. I stayed steady. And in that moment, I realized something important. This wasn't a one-time request. This wasn't about helping Ashley. This was the beginning of something bigger, darker, and far more manipulative. I had no idea then just how far they were willing to go. But I was about to find out. For a few days after that disastrous conversation, everything went unusually quiet. No calls. No guilt-tripping texts. No surprise visits. It was almost unsettling, like the calm before a storm. A small part of me hoped they had accepted my answer, but a much larger part knew they weren't the type to back down. Not when they felt entitled to something. I had no idea just how right I was. A week later, I came home from work and immediately knew something was wrong. My street was crowded with 2 moving trucks, and I saw boxes, my boxes, scattered across my front lawn. Shoes, clothes, framed certificates, kitchen items, all tossed like trash. At first, I genuinely thought someone had broken in. My mind didn't even jump to my family, because even for them, this was unthinkable. But when I sprinted toward the movers, one of them casually said, "Hey, we're almost done. The owner told us to put everything out here." I froze. The owner? Yeah, another guy said, wiping his forehead. Your dad said you wouldn't be home till later. My heartbeat turned into something sharp and metallic. I pushed past them, ran inside, and what I saw made my stomach drop. My dad and Ashley were in my bedroom, opening drawers, checking closets, commenting on what they would change once they moved in. Ashley was holding up my bedding, imagining her baby in the room I spent years saving to afford. My dad walked around with the confidence of someone walking through his own property. It was surreal. Violating. Like I was invisible in my own home. What the hell are you doing in my house? I demanded. My dad didn't even flinch. He turned, arms crossed, and said in the calmest, most patronizing voice, "You didn't leave me a choice. You refused to help your sister. This is a family home. You can't just hog it." Hog it. As if I found the house on the sidewalk and dragged it home like a stray puppy. Ashley added a shaky sob for dramatic effect. "I'm pregnant, Mia. You have no heart. I can't believe you'd leave me with nowhere to go." I felt something inside me go cold. Not angry. Just cold. A kind of numbness you get when the people who are supposed to protect you become the ones who hurt you the most. "You need to get out," I said evenly. "Both of you." My dad shook his head like I was a child throwing a tantrum. "No. You need to leave. You have a good job, you'll be fine. You can stay with a friend for a few months. This house is meant for family." "I am family," I said quietly. He looked at me with genuine confusion, like the thought had never crossed his mind. When they refused to move, when it became clear they were not going to stop, I did the one thing they never expected. I pulled out my phone and called the police. The moment I started dialing, Ashley's tears magically stopped. My dad's face twisted into rage, and he shouted, "How dare you call the cops on your own family?" I didn't answer. I didn't need to. 2 officers arrived, and the moment they asked for proof of ownership, everything shifted. I showed them the deed, my ID, my mortgage paperwork. My dad tried arguing, insisting it was temporary management of a family property, but the officers weren't buying it. They escorted them out. Ashley cried dramatically the whole way down the path, accusing me of heartlessness, screaming that I was destroying the family and ruining her unborn child's future. My dad cursed me out, calling me selfish, ungrateful, cold, every word he could think of to justify his behavior. But all I felt was tired. The type of exhaustion that sinks deep into your bones. After they left, after the movers put my belongings back inside, the adrenaline wore off and left behind a heavy, aching silence. The next day, Ashley texted me asking to meet for coffee, woman to woman. Against my better judgment, I agreed. I guess I still hoped there was some small piece of her that wanted to be honest. She arrived with swollen eyes and a trembling voice, and for a moment, I felt a flicker of pity. She told me her boyfriend left her as soon as she told him she was pregnant. She said she didn't have money, that she had been doing OnlyFans and escorting on the side because my stepmom pressured her to keep up her image and contribute financially. She said it all like a confession dripping in vulnerability. But the moment I started offering solutions that didn't involve me giving her my house, her entire demeanor changed. She sighed dramatically and said, "Look, Mia, I'm asking nicely. Just let me live there for a few months. You can stay somewhere else. You're alone, you don't even have kids. You don't need the house the way I do." I stared at her, stunned at her audacity. Then she delivered the line that stripped away the last bit of sympathy I had. "If you don't help me, you really deserved being shipped off to boarding school. Dad was right about you." It was like she reached into my childhood and twisted the oldest wound I had. And in that moment, everything became clear. They never wanted help. They wanted control. They wanted what was mine because they believed I didn't deserve it. This wasn't about pregnancy. This wasn't about family. This was exploitation, plain and simple. And I finally saw it for what it was. After Ashley's little outburst at the cafe, I didn't bother responding. I just stood up, grabbed my bag, and walked away. No dramatic exit, no final words. Just silence. And honestly, the silence felt powerful. I didn't text her back. I didn't answer calls from my dad or stepmom. I let them all sit with their own chaos for a few days. It was the first time in my life I wasn't scrambling to defend myself or justify my choices. I simply opted out. 3 days later, my dad called and insisted we meet. Not asked, insisted. His tone was sharp and annoyed, like I'd inconvenienced him by having boundaries. We met at a bar he liked, one of those dim places where the lights are low enough for people to pretend they're not falling apart. The moment I sat down, he didn't waste time. I know how much money you make, he started. No hello. No small talk. I talked to your stepmother. With your salary, there is absolutely no reason you can't give your sister the house. She needs it. You don't. It was the entitlement in his voice that got me. Like I was a bank account, not a daughter. I didn't argue. I just watched him. I think that frustrated him more than yelling ever could. He kept going, louder this time. You're being selfish. Completely selfish. This is what's wrong with you. Always thinking about yourself. Your sister is pregnant. She has nothing. And you have everything. Apparently he forgot everything I didn't have growing up. As he raised his voice, someone behind the bar turned slightly, listening. I didn't pay attention at first, but when my dad paused to drink his beer, the bartender approached us. And that's when everything shifted. He looked at my dad first, then at me. You're Mia, right? He asked. Ashley's sister? My stomach tightened. Half-sister, I corrected automatically. He nodded like he understood more than I realized. Then he said quietly, I know Ashley. My dad instantly perked up. See? Even strangers know how hard things have been for her. She deserves, but the bartender cut him off. Not rudely, just firmly. No, sir. I mean, I really know Ashley. A strange tension filled the air. Then he glanced at me. I'm her ex. My dad blinked. Her ex? But she said, she lies, the bartender said simply. A lot. He said it without anger, just a tired kind of honesty. Then he leaned slightly closer, lowering his voice. First thing you should know, he said, I had a vasectomy when I was 25. I can't have kids. There's no way that baby is mine. It felt like the whole bar went quiet. My dad stiffened. That's impossible. She said whatever she needed to, the bartender replied. I broke up with her because she kept disappearing at night. Men picked her up all the time. Different guys every week. I found her OnlyFans account by accident. He looked at me, apologetic. I'm sorry you're dealing with this. She's not who she pretends to be. My dad looked like someone had unplugged him. His face went pale, his jaw slack. For the first time in years, he didn't have anything to say. I didn't gloat. I didn't react. I just sat there, strangely calm, watching the world he built around Ashley crumble like wet paper. He left abruptly, mumbling excuses, as if needing to escape the truth closing in on him. I stayed a moment longer, thanked the bartender, and then walked out into the cool night air feeling lighter. The next morning, Ashley showed up at my house, mascara running, blaming me for exposing her secrets. She was pounding on my door like I'd ruined her life. You told him everything, she screamed. You're jealous. You're trying to destroy me. I opened the door just enough to speak and said, completely steady, Ashley, I didn't tell anyone anything. The truth caught up with you on its own. Her face twisted, and for a moment I thought she'd throw something. Instead, she ran back to the car and sped off. The drama was exhausting, but her meltdown confirmed something for me. She wasn't remorseful. She was just terrified of losing control. That evening, my dad called again. His voice was small, shaken. He asked if we could talk privately. There was something in his tone I hadn't heard since I was a child, confession. He came over late, sat at my dining table, and stared at his hands. Then he told me something I never expected him to admit. He had been cheating on my mom with my stepmother before the divorce. The timeline made sense now. The rushed remarriage. The tension. The guilt that he'd spent my whole life pretending didn't exist. I listened. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just let him talk, because for once, the truth wasn't mine to carry. A few nights later, my stepmom claimed she was going to a late-night yoga class. Something about the way she said it felt rehearsed. Too light. Too careful. So I followed her, not out of spite, but because my instincts were screaming. She didn't go to yoga. She met a man in the parking lot behind a gym, kissed him like she'd done it 100 times, and got into his car. I took out my phone and recorded everything. No commentary. No shaking hands. Just evidence. By the time I drove home, I knew exactly what I needed to do. This wasn't just about my house anymore. It was about truth. It was about finally seeing them clearly, without guilt, without obligation, without the illusion of family. For the first time in my life, I had the upper hand. And I wasn't afraid to use it. The morning after I recorded my stepmom's affair, I knew exactly where I needed to go. There was no shaking in my hands, no hesitation in my steps. Just clarity. A kind of calm I hadn't felt in years. I drove to my dad's house, the place that once felt like home but had long since become nothing more than a stage for dysfunction. He opened the door with tired eyes, like he hadn't slept at all. Maybe he hadn't. The truth he confessed the night before had clearly cracked something open inside him. And I was about to shatter whatever was left. I need to show you something, I said simply. He nodded and stepped aside. I sat at the dining table and placed my phone between us. His hands rested heavily on the surface, fingers trembling. I hit play. The video wasn't dramatic, just my stepmom kissing another man, slipping into his car, laughing like a woman in love. But the effect it had on my dad was devastating. His face collapsed in slow motion. First confusion, then realization, then the kind of grief that sucks the air out of a room. He didn't speak for a long time. He just stared at the screen as if he could rewind the last 20 years of his life and find the thread where it all went wrong. When he finally looked up at me, he whispered, "How long?" "I don't know," I said honestly. "But long enough." He pushed away from the table like the truth physically burned him. "I gave up everything for her. I thought she loved me." His voice cracked in a way I'd never heard before, not anger, not disappointment, but pure heartbreak. And for a brief moment, I felt something unexpected, sympathy. Not enough to forget everything he'd done, but enough to recognize that he was a broken man who had been manipulated by someone even more skilled at manipulation than Ashley. Within an hour, the confrontation happened. My stepmom came home, all fake smiles and high energy, like she hadn't been dismantling her marriage in a parking lot. When she saw my dad's face, and the phone in his hand, she froze. He didn't yell. He didn't throw anything. He just said, "Get out." Ashley came running downstairs, confused and annoyed, clearly woken up from a nap. When she saw the tension, she instantly launched into her usual theatrics. "What's going on? Why are you attacking Mom? Why is she crying?" Then she spotted me and glared like everything was somehow my fault. My stepmom collapsed into begging almost immediately. Please don't do this. Think about Ashley. Think about the baby. Her whole future." I cut her off, my voice steady but cold. "Her future isn't my responsibility. Her pregnancy was her choice. Her problems are hers to solve, not mine to carry." Both of them stared at me like I'd spoken a foreign language. Ashley was the first to lash out. "You're heartless. Evil. You want us homeless. You're jealous because Dad actually loves me more." I didn't respond. I didn't need to. My dad, still shattered but strangely grounded, said quietly, "Pack your things. Both of you. You're not staying here." Ashley erupted in disbelief, but he didn't waver. And for the first time in my entire life, I saw him draw a boundary that didn't involve sacrificing me for their comfort. My stepmom tried one last tactic, falling at my feet, grabbing my hand, whispering desperately, "Please delete the video. Please, for Ashley's sake. For the baby. Don't ruin her life." I pulled my hand away. "I'm not ruining anything," I said. "You did this. She did this. I'm done being the one who pays for everyone else's mistakes." Silence settled like dust after an explosion. I left without another word. Walking out that door felt like walking out of 20 years of emotional debt. I didn't feel triumphant. I didn't feel vindictive. I felt free. In the days that followed, I changed the locks on my house, blocked their numbers, and finally allowed myself to breathe. My home felt different, lighter, safer. Like it finally belonged to me in every sense. I didn't check in on them. I didn't ask mutual acquaintances for updates. Whatever happened to them from that point forward wasn't my burden anymore. And for the first time, I let myself believe that letting go didn't make me cruel, it made me whole. If I ever told this story publicly, I think I'd end it with this: not everyone who shares your blood is your family. And no one, absolutely no one, has the right to claim what you've built just because they feel entitled to it. In the end, I kept my house. I kept my peace. I kept my future. And that was more than enough. Before I close this chapter, I'll leave you with one question, the same one I had to face. If you were in my place, would you show the video to your father, or let the truth reveal itself in its own time? Because sometimes, doing the right thing isn't about kindness. Sometimes, it's about choosing yourself, finally, unapologetically.